Hi, I'm Katie Royals. I'm Managing Editor at PAM Insight, which is a specialist financial media company. I think there's probably two key aspects that I'm particularly interested in or following a lot at the moment. The first of those being sort of client service and how hyper-personalization can potentially improve client service. I think perhaps previously people have thought that only really is available sort of at a lower end of the wealth scale and maybe sort of retail platforms, robo platforms. But actually, I think we're starting to see data analytics can be beneficial whatever your level of wealth. On the other end of the scale, and perhaps slightly less exciting, I think regulation is really important in terms of data analytics. We know wealth managers have a high regulatory burden, and that's not changing anytime soon. And we just have to look at the FCA's consumer duty, which, to be honest, I think we're only just at the tipping point of the impact of that. And I think that's going to be really far-reaching. And what I found in recent conversations with wealth managers, COOs, CTOs, all those sort of roles, is actually one of the key things is having the data to prove your compliance. Because it's quite difficult to prove, good value for money, good client outcomes. A lot of that can be quite subjective, or firms have been treating it subjectively, but actually data can really help show you're up to date on this. Transparency is so important. Firms need to be honest about what data they're collecting and why. If clients can understand how the data is going to be used and how it could potentially lead to benefits for them, I think they're going to be much more open to data being collected. I think we all know our data is collected all the time from various companies, various things. All you have to do is look at Instagram or TikTok and it seems to be thinking about the conversation you've had or something like that. So I think we are used to our data being out there, but I think in terms of financial services, people want to really trust that they understand why it's being used, how it's being held, and of course I think cybersecurity comes into that as well. I don't think it's going to be unusual for clients to ask about, firms' cybersecurity frameworks, the processes they have in place, and make sure these are all really robust and as watertight as they can be, obviously. I think in terms of the biases and ensuring that clients are still treated fairly and as individuals, that again is going to depend a little bit on the level of wealth of clients. I think at the higher level of wealth management, I don't think that's as much of an issue because the wealth managers will still have a personal relationship with all their clients, and I don't believe that human touch is going away anywhere. So I see that very much as data aiding that relationship, and the wealth manager being quite easily to step in and say, yes, I know this is a couple in their mid-30s, but no, they're not having children, that sort of thing, which might be, expected, but people have deviated from that. The wealth manager will be able to step in. I think, again, if we look more at robo platforms or offerings for more the mass affluent retail customers, bias is a much harder thing to deal with because trends are so important to the algorithms and even, the risk frameworks. They ask you those questions, they profile you and sort of put you into buckets almost. Obviously, you have the option to override that, but for the firms themselves, I think that is an issue they are going to have to grapple with and work out the difference between a trend and a bias, and perhaps they still need a certain level of human intervention to ensure they are managing that effectively. In my mind, technology and data go hand in hand. I think it's very difficult to have one without the other, or at least not have them both operating effectively. You can collect all the data in the world, but without technology, you're going to really struggle to harness it and actually use that data. Technology is obviously essential for processing and managing the data, providing the insights that can then be used and, predicting those trends. AI is probably going to have a transformative impact in this sort of area. So we're still relatively early days in terms of AI adoption in the wealth management sector, but I would expect in terms of the data management and efficiency, this is one area it could be really impactful. There's a number of ways they can do this. I think scale does really help in this regard. I think it is certainly easier for larger firms to be able to do this because they have the resource, they have the teams in place, and they can replicate things on a much larger scale. We'll see for some wealth management firms, that's easy. Unfortunately, the vast majority of firms operating in the UK do not have that scale, but I don't think that means they can't do this. I think for some of these firms, actually the most important thing is to focus on one or two areas, or what is it that's really important to your clients? What is going to really help them? Because you don't need to do everything. You can do everything, but actually that you can almost overwhelm clients with too much data, too much information. And so I think that focus, doing a couple of things really, really well is potentially better than sort of doing a few general bits that don't really help anyone. I think it's also important to note that, we are starting to see these data analytics come through already. In sort of financial planning, wealth planning area of the market, cash flow analysis is becoming very commonplace. Obviously, the levels of detail and sophistication vary firm to firm, but I think it's becoming almost an expected tool for financial planners.